I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tate. Discussion? Hearing none, in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. No public comment tonight, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Carmel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Julie. Discussion? Hearing none. In favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Communications, tonight we have Chris and Dan from ICS here tonight to give us a building update. So guys, we'll let you take over.
I'll be up there. There you go. Well, thanks for having us again tonight. We're here just giving an update where we're at in the construction document process. We'll be back here in about a month to ask for permission to go out for bidding and approval of the construction documents, but this is a snapshot of where we're at right now. So our agenda is just review quickly design process where we're at with that. And then just the layouts really hasn't changed since the last time we were here, but again, if there's any questions, we're here to answer them. And then overall schedule, and then the heart of this is really just give some education on bidding and what we can and can't do when we get to that point, so that when we get here in November and we're asking to go out to bid, there are no surprises in terms of what that process is. So again, our design process, we're right there in construction documents. We've got about a month left before we go out to bid and finish those up. Our site plan is noted before. So again, student parking will be on the east side of the building. We have the bus loop separated there, and then again, we're going to have some parking, new parking south of the elementary portion of the building, as well as expanding that parking for the high school district office there. The blue are areas of additions, so we've got the fitness addition right there, we've got the theater and commons addition, egg shop, and then we've got the elementary for the most part centered on the west side of the building. The big part that we're still somewhat developing, and actually not this week, but next week we'll actually have a backhoe out here doing some exploratory digging. We unexpectedly doing soil borings, which you may have seen out here. The boring truck, we found a pocket of sand, which was unexpected. So we're going to do some more test pits, because if we've got usable sand on site, it's going to only help our budget out because we don't have to import as much. So sand about here, but then as that wetland area starts here, soils aren't so great, but we're thinking if we do a couple test pits up here, we might run into a pocket that's usable. So if you see anyone digging out here, you get questions, that's really what's going on. So
Yeah, so with all those borings, I think Sherry said the community started asking questions because it's becoming real, so it's probably a good thing.
And again, we take soil borings to basically mitigate risk. So that's not to say we're not going to run into bad soils in between borings, but at least it gives us a full picture across the entire site. So they took them in the corners of the buildings, throughout some of the parking areas, the east side of the building. But there's enough borings that we believe we've got a consistent picture of what's on the site. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to find a vein of black dirt between borings. And I will say, when we get into construction, usually the first cost item that we use contingency on is soil corrections. Again, we're going to try to mitigate that as much with the documents and the soil borings, but it is one of those things that we'll potentially run into. But pretty consistent from what we knew before. There really aren't any bad soils. It's just basically field dirt, for lack of a better word. So again, your existing building, and then the building as we're heading on. So again, the fitness, the theater, egg shop, the elementaries, the new gym. Recreating this area that we're sitting in with 2 classrooms. We're going to take that hallway out back there. The fax lab and the special ed suite in the high school. And then redoing the locker rooms and the main office there. These are just blow-ups of those areas. So. So again, just some images of where we're at right now. We're in the process of updating these. So when we get to the next presentation, you'll see some more current ones that'll probably look a little more lifelike than these even are right now, as we refine the drawings and the documents. Inside that elementary cafeteria, the area right outside of the Science and Media Center in the elementary. The fitness and the theater with that main entry now on the east side of the high school. Another view of that. Some more views. And then inside of that commons area. And then those theater views that we have. And the fitness. So again, not much has changed. We're refining some of the color palette. We'll bring some final views of that as well when we come back in November. Judd, I don't know if you want to comment. I know staff have gotten an opportunity to kind of see what the color palette is right now.
Yeah, sure. So I had some of the samples. We met, it would have been two Fridays ago now, to talk about the chairs in the theater area. And so there were some samples that were available, and I took them to both elementary sites, and then actually today I brought them back here so that they could be seen at the high school. Just some of the comments that I wanted to share with you. Again, this is all related to the color palettes and stuff. Love what's been chosen. Love the school pride with the subdued scheme. It's the colors, but it's not like in your face. The theater is going to be gorgeous. Nice to see everything coming together. I'm excited again. Can't wait to see it come together. Thank you for your hard work. So all the comments about everything, the textures of the fabrics and the colors and the wood grain and countertops and all those kinds of things, tile. Everybody's really excited about it, so I want to share that with you.
So
A lot of discussions, hasn't it, Julie and Mel?
Yeah. So overall schedule, we're sitting in October right now. As you can see, as the other slide showed, we're nearing the end of construction documents. We are working on an estimate right now that we're wrapping up that we'll be able to report on where we sit versus overall budget in the coming weeks. But as of right now, that's where we're at. And then again, we're going to try to bid out and get awarded by the end of the year so that we have that window basically when really no work can happen out here, that we can get all our approvals through the state. Whether it's COVID related or just downsizing related, the state is moving fairly slow in terms of plan reviews, so we're trying to build as much of that in. I think 3 months is probably more than enough. We haven't seen anything take that long yet, but we do have quite a few that are starting to push that limit in the queue on other projects right now. So it does pose a challenge, but again, we're going to take advantage of the colder weather when we can't really be doing anything. Get those approvals so then once we have workable temperatures that the dirt work can start, even if we're still working on plan review, there's some stuff we will be able to do out here hopefully as soon as March. So
And like Chris said, budget-wise, we'll get more into that at the next meeting for approval, but right now the bid environment's good with people filling up their calendar for future jobs, especially next year, so
Yeah.
it's a good time.
And Dan noted it, we've had some projects bid around the state, and I think a lot of people are seeing this. We've talked to others in the industry. Bids are coming in fairly lucrative right now. We bid out a project in Sauk Rapids. It was $3 million under budget on bid day. Worthington bid a brand new elementary school that was about $4 million under budget. Now, I can't promise we're gonna be those kinds of numbers, but contractors are definitely hungry that work in this industry right now. And we don't see that really changing anytime soon, at least through the beginning of the next year. We do have a lot of
Cautiously
contractors.
optimistic right
Yep,
now.
cautiously optimistic. Have a lot of contractors reaching out to us, just even asking us what we have coming down, so. There haven't been a lot of referendums passed recently, so a lot of the work that's bid, we're gonna be one of those projects that's sitting out there that's gonna be attractive, so. So bidding, State of Minnesota bid law, these are the things that you as a district, as well as we are bound to adhere by. So there's basically 3 levels that we have to adhere by. 2 of these don't require board action. The big project as a whole will, but I did want to educate you on the lower 2, just because there will be instances during the project that we will likely utilize these strategies in terms of furnishings and equipment and possibly other things like playground equipment. But basically contract value under 25 grand. So all it requires is you get 2 quotes. You probably have done this quite often in the past. And you basically have the choice to pick, you can negotiate, and you have the choice to pick the bid you want, whether it's the high or the low. Contract levels between 25,000 and 175,000. This higher level used to be 100,000, but they raised it a couple years back, so it's actually become very beneficial in that range. So again, things like playgrounds, those kinds of equipment items kind of usually fall into this range, and we'll likely utilize that mainly because one, they will quote them out, they'll technically quote against each other, and we can negotiate those, and again, we have the choice to pick whoever we want. If someone looks like it's a better value, we can definitely choose them. In addition to this, I actually don't have it on the slide, there is another avenue. Things that have already been bid out that are on state or co-op pricing already, and you probably have used this as well. So there's a whole number of things, playgrounds are one of them. You can get down to like individual systems that we could pull out of this project if we wanted to go that route, but they've already been essentially bid out. So there's a set number. All you do is tell them what basically the square footage of the project is. They put their multiplier on it, and you have a number you can basically contract right out of the bat with. So again, we'll be using that strategy as well. It'll still probably be within these categories based on where our project's at right now. So contract value is 175,000 above. So advertisement for bids are required, so we'll be bringing that to the next board meeting. Basically it has to be advertised for 2 concurrent weeks. So basically what that means is sometimes you run into areas where paper issues on a Tuesday and a Thursday. You could literally issue it on the Tuesday before or Thursday before and then the Tuesday after. That counts as 2 weeks. So we'll still want to advertise for 4 weeks. In addition to that, I'll get into another way that we get contractor interest. But basically it's published in the district's publication of record, usually, oh, that's the wrong paper, but your local paper works. Also the website, your website is a good place to put it as well. Sealed bids are required, so they have to provide a 5% bid bond. In the event that they pull and we find that it's a legitimate reason they did not pull, you're actually entitled to take that 5% bid bond and cash it out. Doesn't happen a lot, but there have been a few instances in the past where that may come into play. Contractors also have to comply with the Minnesota Responsible Contractor Law. By signing our bid form, they're actually admitting that they're doing such, so there's nothing they really have to do, as extra step there. And then award is to the lowest responsible bidder based on low bid. And I want to emphasize it's based on low bid. There's not a whole lot we can do with this to go with someone if there's someone at second position that we really want. Unless that low bidder drops, we can't go to that second bidder. There's an alternate method that would allow us to do that. We're not going to utilize this because still it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a local contractor on the project. And bid is still a major part of that weighting system as well. So the state has used this option, like they did the 35W bridge this way, actually ended up in a lawsuit because it doesn't preclude you from contesting bids either. So just another tool that you can use. And then bids are formally accepted by motion and vote by the school board once we as ICS recommend the bid package to be awarded. So the other option that I talked about is we actually run a project management software. We have 35,000 or 3,500 plus contractors in Minnesota and the upper Midwest that we have on there, and it's continuing to grow. So when we issue these bidding documents, it will go out electronically to basically every contractor that we are aware of that we have on the list. It'll be targeted obviously based on the work we're doing, but it sends out an automatic notification that the drawings are there. They're free for download. We don't charge anything for it, so it's actually to their benefit to actually get them straight from us. They will be at the plan rooms as well. But what we're finding, as technology improves, the plan rooms are actually starting to fall behind. They don't keep things up to date like they used to, just mainly because they don't have the staff. So we'll inform district personnel, but if people are calling, have them call us, we'll get them locked in and get them the information. We'll hold a pre-bid meeting and a walkthrough. Basically, the site basically just gives the contractor an opportunity to see the site. As part of submitting a bid, they're basically acknowledging that they understand the documents. They've at least acknowledged they had the chance to come see the site, and that we're not going to give them any extras because they failed to do their due diligence on the front end. Continually through the process, we're calling contractors. Dan's already doing that right now a lot. Talking to earthwork contractors and concrete contractors. One, to verify what they're seeing for pricing out there, and two, just to make sure do they know about the project, and two, are they interested? So, and then learning what availability and trades have to take on the work. This probably doesn't apply to us in this instance, but we have had the other instance where everyone's really busy, which was happening prior to COVID, where we had to really get strategic about when we bid projects just to make sure they had time to bid them. Bid dates strategically scheduled. Again, we don't know of any bids, I believe, on our date that are going to conflict with our bids. So you don't want to have two big projects bidding on the same day, because then that splits contractor time in terms of what they got to make a choice to bid on. And then packaging work scopes, which I'll get into the next slide, to maximize opportunities for local and regional contractors. Because we are delivering this project with a CM method, there's going to be a series of work scopes. So we're going to break down the site work, the concrete work. One, it keeps those contractors focused on what they're good at. They don't have to try to be a general contractor. And two, it allows those smaller contractors to maybe have an opportunity to bid on something that they wouldn't have if it was a general contracting bid. Good. Oh, same slide twice. So here's our bid scopes as of right now. So like I said, earthwork, concrete, masonry, structural material, structural installation, windows, flooring, finishes, the theater and audio equipment, the food service equipment, fire protection, mechanical, and electrical. So as you can see, these are fairly targeted to specific areas, but there are quite a few companies that like to just do these things. So there's also companies that may choose on bid day to actually compile all these into one bid. We might have a general package that takes about that much and slams it into one bid, provides a combined bid, and at the end of the day they might be low. If they're low, it's probably to our advantage to take them, but again, at least we have the opportunity to evaluate that on bid day as well. Alternates to date, these are our alternates, so I'll quickly go through these. Building controls, so alternate 1A, we're basically going to upgrade and expand your existing control systems. The reason we have alternate 1B is basically Controls is one of those industries, we need to keep them accountable on bid day. If we don't bid some kind of competition, you have a tendency for them to just throw their number and there's really no way to check it. So we also have had instances where regardless if they are required to pull out the old controls and replace with all new, the new might actually be cheaper than the other one, to be honest. So
Does
Sure.
everybody know what he means by alternates? Alternates mean, in case you don't know, if the bids come in lower and we have the opportunity to do what they call add alternates, that's these things.
Yep. So I will clarify, alternate one, we do need to pick one of these on bid day. So a couple of these are very strategic, again, to get the best price available on bid day. Others are pure upgrades. Alternate two is upgrading the middle school science room. So right now, the old middle school science room, or what is being used as the middle school science room, is a classroom right now. This would basically put science casework into that room and create another science room. It should be noted that the egg classroom also could serve as a earth science room as well. So there's some flexibility already built into the design. Alternate three is bleachers in the new gym spaces. Base bid would be no bleachers. Alternate four would be installing the orchestra pit and cover in the theater. Base bid has no orchestra pit and cover. Alternate number five are some theater upgrades. So this would be beyond the base package. Like some of the upgraded sound shells, some extra rigging, some things you don't necessarily need but would be nice to have. So alternate number six is flooring upgrades. So basically we have a base level flooring, VCT. This would upgrade it to LVT, and in conjunction with alternate number seven, there's a desire to get terrazzo in the public spaces of the new building, which is a better long-term investment, but it does have a greater upfront cost on first cost. So the combination of those, depending on what's chosen, if they're chosen, would either provide terrazzo in some areas, upgrade to LVT, or we could keep it at VCT as well. So there's some choices available on bid day. And then the last one is the scoreboards in the gym area. Just to see versus, this is one of those items you can buy on state contract, but it also does preclude us to try to get a bid sometimes just to see what that is on bid day. So, and then there's probably a couple more alternates we're working through. We'll bring those forward at the next meeting, but a couple of things we're investigating, coming up with contractors right now. So just vetting those out before we commit to doing those.
Question on the theater upgrades.
Yeah.
Does that include, we looked at the 2 chairs, and one of the chairs, I think it was,
I'm still waiting on the pricing from Paul to see where it fits in our final estimate. So
okay.
depending on that.
Yeah, we haven't, we're working with the theater consultant to define those, but chairs, upgrading the chair could possibly be one of
The
those.
consultant's kind of given us different levels of, okay, for a high school theater, this would be plenty to do, to work with. Here would be ideal. So they'll be spelt out, and then can pick what, if the budget permits, pick what you feel is the best moving forward.
Are those alternates listed in the order you think we should use them, or they're just random?
They don't necessarily prioritize, they're just, unfortunately, as we come up with them, we keep adding on. They've been sorted a couple times now. I think we're kind of set with the first 8, but we may organize. We actually had a 1 that was already deleted, so we've moved 9 to 8 to 1, so. But no, there is no prioritization there. That ultimately is up to you and based on bids on bid day.
Other
so.
than controls, we gotta control
Correct.
the system one way or another. So
Correct.
that one will be for sure.
So just overview of the bidding schedule. So again, November 9th, we'll be back here for approval of construction documents and letting of bids. And then the day after is when we'll issue documents. November 19th, we'll have a pre-bid walkthrough of the site with the contractors, again, giving them that opportunity. They don't necessarily have to choose it. And pre-bids are one of those things, we may have 2 people show up or none. We may have 30 show up. It's really dependent on how much they see value to it. But it is a tool to mitigate their risk in terms of their bids. So open bids on December 10th, and then we will vet the bids internally, make our recommendation to the school district, get that in your board packet with a special school board meeting on the 21st, I believe, as of right now. So again, list on the side there of kind of where we're at, left to do. So complete construction documents and complete our CD estimate, and we'll be back to the POC committee, believed on the 2nd of November with a follow-up board meeting on the 9th. Any questions?
So can you explain how we are going to handle those possible extra 2 classrooms?
So we originally were going to bid those by alternate, but because of the work scopes, it does cause the opportunity for be a lot of confusion because we're actually adding a fairly detailed area scope of work. So we could have 15 of those 23 work scopes provide a number on bid day. If we have the dollars available after bids are taken, we can issue what's called a proposal request and actually get that priced out and actually negotiate with the contractor a little bit after the bids with those that are already on board. So that's one other thing. We can't negotiate with the contractors when we take the bids until they are under contract. Once that happens, then we can start negotiations on if they see any opportunities for cost savings beyond what's in their bid, those kinds of things. But bid law does not allow us to negotiate on a hard sealed bid. Any other questions?
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You guys been through a lot here tonight.
Sorry, I don't have a written report for you. I threw something together, but just didn't have time to get something in the board packet. Sherry said maybe I could just give a few updates and then answer some questions. What's going on with football? Obviously, they started the seasons for football and volleyball late. It was just like real spur of the moment. We're lucky the district made a football schedule, so we have a 6-game schedule this year instead of an 8-game schedule. And they are doing a normal section tournament. There is no state in football this year, so basically at the end of the season there'll be 8 section champions, and that'll be it. What we've decided to do as a conference, or as a district for football, we chose to kind of stick together and do the same thing. We're allowed to have 250 people or 25% of what the capacity is. So we're all, since it's outside, we're all doing the 250. When you're the home team, you get 150 vouchers. When you're the away team, you get 100 vouchers. So we, and this is something we're going to try to improve and tweak a little. What we did the first time is we went through and gave a certain number of vouchers to each player. And the only people that don't need a voucher to attend are, the only people that don't need one are the essential workers that are at the event. So, for instance, each community is allowed 1 newspaper. We actually had to save a voucher for the newspaper person and so on. Each community is allowed 1 radio station. So it's kind of, while we're standing there at the gate, there were a few things changed. The Minneota media person showed up, didn't have a voucher and so on. It went pretty well. The first week we used 142 of our 150, so only 8 people or 8 vouchers didn't show up. And for Minneota they used 94, so only 6 didn't show up. So it was actually pretty good for the first week. They are required to walk in and out of the gate with a mask, and we kept somebody at the gate the whole time, so all of a sudden we don't just start having people flow in. We didn't have that even possibility. We don't want to take a chance that we go over that, so we do keep someone at the gate the whole time. So they are required to wear a mask. Once they get inside, we just recommended, announced multiple times, please social distance, wear your mask when you're not social distancing. I wouldn't say a lot of it happened, but again, we weren't crowded by any means either. As far as busing, there are some schools, like Minneota, it was a little confusing. They had like 4 or 6 kids ride the bus over, and then parents brought all their players, brought their own kids. when I looked at that, that's really not going to benefit us, because again, we're a small enough team, and even when we're in those pods practicing, and we're in those pods in the locker room changing, if there would be a kid that got it, everybody's going to be in that same book, or in that same boat, no matter if they took rides from their parents or not, because they're together changing the locker room, they're together, in their pods out in the field. So at this time, we are having them take buses. If a parent would choose and want to, take their kid or pick their kid up, obviously that's something we would allow if they just made arrangements ahead of time. So we wouldn't say no. We don't see the benefit in it right now. When we do travel on away, we're going to cut the roster way back. Only the ninth graders that are playing quite a bit will go along. So we'll travel with less too, which will help us. For volleyball, again, that got thrown on us the day of the volleyball game. Thank goodness it was an away one. It changes a little bit, and there's been some confusion. Again, they can have up to 250 people, or 25% of the capacity, or 2 per team member, whichever is the lesser. So there's been some people thinking that we could probably get more in. Now, the team members are all the players, the coaches, and the managers. If they're official team personnel, they all get 2 guests, so to speak. Two fans, whatever you want, and they can share them. So as we've said, and I met with the varsity volleyball team today, and then I drove over to Raymond and met with the 7th and 8th graders and kind of explain this, because I just haven't had time to get a letter out to them, but I wanted to at least have them have some idea of what's going on. They can also share them. If I tonight am not going to have anybody show up, they could give them to maybe someone else that needs 4 people to come, or something along those lines. And for this week, at least, we're just going to have sign-ups at the door. For junior high, give no charge. For varsity, we're doing the same thing. I sent it out today because there was some confusion about that, and I've had 7 of the teams in our conference get back so far, and everybody for volleyball and football are charging $5 a person. So we've made it a straight fee. We're not doing 6 and 4 different for students and things like that. But everybody but CMCS, they said we are charging. They didn't give the amount. But everybody else that responded today, it's going to be $5. So we're going to be pretty standard, no matter if you're on the road or not. And this goes on the road also. Each person is allowed. So each week that we have an away game, I have to send a spreadsheet. Haven't figured out how I'm doing that. Jesse's going to work with me on that tomorrow morning, if we're going to do some kind of Google Doc or something along those lines. But we have to send a spreadsheet, and then the people at the gate will check off who's coming in and so on. And the recommendation, it's not required, but they're recommending that people don't stay for the whole match. That when the C are playing, hopefully the varsity parents don't come yet. When the C players are done, the C parents leave, and the B parents watch and so on. Just so, because we're only going to be able to use half our gym, because all the fans, nobody can be within 12 feet of the players. So where the players sit over on this side, they're going to have to wear masks on the bench, social distance the best we can. And if you measure 12 feet back from them, that's going to be a majority of that bleacher. So the C team has to sit in their own pod, the B team has to sit in their own pod, varsity has to sit in their own pod, same thing for both teams. So for now, and again, until tomorrow night, we won't know how it works, we'll have, this side will be totally for the pods of the players to keep fans socially distanced away. And then that side of the gym will be shared. That's why if we put all C, B, and A parents and everybody for both communities, it's going to be a pretty full bleacher on that side. So again, we're just asking the courtesy, and we're not going to walk around and force people out, but we're just asking, if you will, would you please just come for your child's event. There's been a couple questions about price. I've had some questions from parents about, are we going to give some activity feedback, and I thought this was something important to talk about. We have an 11-week season this year, and normally it's let's see here, what is it normally? So we have an 11-week season, plus we had a 3-week practice season ahead of time, before we knew we were actually going to be allowed to have games and all that. So that was a 14-week season. Our normal season, not counting the state tournament, but our normal season is 13 weeks. So technically, our season this year is 1 week longer than it is other years, if you're counting weeks, because of that 3-week practice session. And then also for matches, for C squad and B squad, our normal season schedule is 14 matches, and then our B has the Dawson Boyd tournament, and our C team has the Minneota tournament. Our varsity has the tournaments in the cities, the Jimmy Johns in Marshall, and the Wabasso tournament. So the only thing any of our 3 teams are losing this year are the tournaments. So our varsity is losing quite a few matches through the tournaments, but our B and C are only losing 1 tournament each. So again, from a match standpoint, it's real comparable to other years. We put in a new video system this year called Pixelot. I heard mixed reviews on it Friday night. Some people, my wife watched it and said it was crystal clear. A couple little things, when it got an end zone, it left like an interception, it left and went back to, to a bigger group of the kids, but overall said it worked well. I had some texts complaining that it kept shutting down and buffering and that kind of stuff, and I'm questioning if that has more to do with maybe some individual's internet. And I didn't get a chance today, but I'm going to send an email tomorrow just asking some of these things, see if there's any tweaking to do or if that's kind of the way it is. But again, I had multiple people say they thought it was pretty darn good. And you cannot buy an individual event. You can either buy a year pass or you can pay $10.99, so $11 a month, and that gives you every level of volleyball and football here. So we play our junior high football, JV football, and varsity football over in Maynard, and we play our CB and A teams, and they will all be televised. Where in the past we've just done varsity and so on. So all those things will be included in that $10.99 and not paying per event. Is there any questions on football or volleyball?
I have one question.
Yes.
How many devices can you watch on with one subscription?
I think I've heard one.
Okay.
Only one person can be signed into account at a time.
Okay, and the issue with that, I think, for at least this year, is, in my case, Tim will work on the road somewhere and want to watch it, and I
Right.
can't go to the game either, so we both want to watch it, but are we going to have 2 subscriptions?
You would, or one would have to watch later.
Okay.
So it is played, you can come back and watch it after the fact. But yeah, I believe you can only have one person signed at a time. Again, it's very new to me too.
Sure.
So that's my best guess, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
And Jim, you can also watch other schools. Like I went on and I was watching Canby and Dawson Boyd play, because I knew Canby had it. And so you can watch other schools.
That's
You're not
something I
just-
didn't know. I thought it was only when we played those sites. So there are 4 or 5 teams in our conference that have Pixelot this time, and next year, I think Canby's thinking about doing it too when I emailed them this week. So there's more getting it, and that's the thing. You have access to everybody that has the Pixelot system in underneath your subscription. And this will go on the same thing, good thing about basketball this year. Every basketball game that's played in this gym, and we could do this if we had a kids tournament. But CB and A will all be, able to be on the Pixelot system this year, where in the past we just put the varsity game on. Early stages, but Aubrey Ross is working on a fall play. We chose not to do the musical for many different reasons, but when volleyball and at least was allowed for indoor activities, we thought we might as well let her get started too. So she's still changing it with a blue-green group, so they're not all together every day, trying to keep them as safe as she can. And she's going to do a series of like mini skits and things like that. And I haven't had much time to spend on it, but we are starting to do that, and that's something that we will eventually, depending on, I'm assuming we would be allowed to have people in, just like the volleyball, maybe have 2 per person, and we would probably look into the copyrights and make sure, and I got a feeling they will make some exceptions this year that we could also use the Pixelot system and maybe televise it too. Do you have anything you want to add to that part?
And as far as we know, the 1Act is on. So they're still planning on a 1Act competition. They're hoping to do it in person. If they can't, they're going to try to figure out a way to do it virtually. So we're going to move ahead with that, and Aubrey is choosing the play, and so fingers crossed that we can do
We're
it.
still going to hold off on musical. That's such a big production. We're going to move that more to like the spring season and just see how things are progressing and changing at that time. Tomorrow's the last day of the tennis season. They did throw out, there's no individual sections this year. There is no state tournament. So they decided to play out the section tournament at the higher seed sites. And tomorrow we're in the 5th place match against Lacaparo Valley. We were the 5th seed, they were the 6th seed. And that'll be here if you guys want to come out and watch the tennis team, but that is the last event of the year for them. Also Thursday is the cross-country meet down in Laverne. We run at 9 in the morning, so Lane, you'd have to get up earlier than used to. But
Is that afternoon?
yeah, so they end up, they're going to end up running pretty early and stuff. But again, since there's no state tournament, that's the last meet of the year for those sports. You already had it in your consent agenda, but again, Justin Tungan, because he was taking some classes and stuff, it didn't work out for him to coach football when they started it, so Brandon Grun stepped in and did it. He was approved as a volunteer, but they switched that place. Volleyball, same thing. We had a junior high coach out for the last couple weeks, and so it was really nice. Brittany Coonan stepped in. She's been a long-time junior high coach, and talked to her, and she stepped in the last 2 weeks, so we didn't, because we have a rookie coach and too many kids in the gym for one coach, even without being a rookie, and so it was really nice. She stepped in and helped us out the last 2 weeks. And then lastly, I think Sherry's gonna touch on this, the state high school. Is there anything you want to say about or want me to say about the fee structure?
Yeah, I reached out to the administrative assistant on Friday, who said she would, just for us, reach out to the executive director and ask if there's any talk yet on fees. Remember last month we talked about that $5,000, $2,500 in November, $2,500 in February. There are superintendents around the state who have proposed different ways to arrive at a way to a less of a fee for schools our size. I'll give credit to Keith Kotke from Sleepy Eye, who came up with a really in-depth way to prorate what schools pay. But there's no language yet on that. I don't think they're expecting their first money till the middle of November, so that's what I heard. So far, I know nothing, Jim.
It's, it's one of those things that's unfortunate. I wasn't real, there were some smaller schools that were really worked up. I wasn't really worked up because they really provide a fantastic service for us. And they've cut back probably 25% of their staff. I mean, they're having financial problems. And like I said, what's the option? If they shut down, are we just gonna go to all clubs? We don't necessarily want that. But their money comes from the state tournaments. So when they lost boys state basketball tournaments last year, now this year they're losing the football. They make a lot of money on football because US Bank Stadium is the only venue we have that doesn't charge them. They get to use US Bank Stadium for the whole, all the football playoffs for nothing. But when we go to Williams Arena and we go to Target Center and Excel Center, I swore I heard that the one day of the state wrestling tournament, not just what the venue charges, but all expenses cost the state high school like $85,000 to rent. Well, if they can't fill it with the fans, they can't have state tournaments because they can't afford to do it. When I say rent, it was all expenses and costs. So it's really unfortunate they had to do it. And another problem is a lot of the Metro ADs are on the board. If I remember right, there's 14, 5 in the outside rural communities and 9 from the city. So obviously it looked very fair to them. It passed pretty easily. I know Bill Tower from Tracy, fought pretty hard, disagreeing that this is not quite a structure that's good for us. But we'll see where it goes. And like I said, worst case scenario, we don't want them to close down either. So, but that's everything I have. Is there any more questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Judd Wheatley, elementary, please.
Good evening, everybody. A little bit of a change of pace for you for this month. You can see I did everything via picture. I thought it'd be kind of a neat way to take a sneak peek at what distance learning looks like. And so I'm just going to walk you through some of these different things and some of the names of the programs and that kind of stuff you may have heard of before. Others might be new to you, but again, it's just a neat way to see how things went when we had our 2 weeks at East not too long ago. So again, I sat through 2 preschool sing-alongs. Just always fun to see the kids practicing their numbers as they're singing along about sausages frying in a pan or ducks that are out for a walk or those kinds of things. A little sample schedule for you there. What I really want to highlight on this first page is the 2 pictures in the bottom left-hand corner. The one where you see Dana Johnson, 3rd grade teacher, she's giving a thumbs up. I asked her to pose for the picture. She was giving me an explanation of the Go Guardian. And Go Guardian is a program that we use that when the students are online and they're not currently actively engaged in a teaching session, as long as they're using their device, you can actually see what they're doing, and you can have like one-on-one chat. So when I was in school, I had to take a piano keyboarding class, And my music teacher was sitting there and he had a headset and he could punch a number and listen to each of us individually and then give us tips on what we were playing. It's really not a whole lot different than that, in that she's just using the computer as the device and able to jump in and have separate conversations with each individual student, and it's done privately, which is kind of neat. So if they're working on something and struggling with a particular math problem, she can take the time to work with that individual at that time. So really, really cool program to use. And then the one that's labeled Math Work Check-In, that's a program called Class Dojo, which is very, very popular because you can access parents, send messages that way. It's almost kind of think of it like Facebook for class. And then the students can submit work, you can take pictures, you can do videos, and then you can share back and forth that way. So it's a very popular way to communicate. Then you have Kahoot, which is a fantastic trivia program. We use Kahoot with during an all-staff workshop. Would have been in, I think, 2018. We did that, and everybody can use their device and answer the trivia question with their device. Top right-hand corner, the virtual reality tour, kind of cool. Students were able to use their devices to take a tour of something that they've been studying in social. And then I threw in a couple class sessions so you can just see the faces of the kids, and then the multiplication top-up game down at the bottom where they were using the cards in order to work on their math facts, which is something that's kind of neat. So again, nice neat little sneak peek, and you can see how things are going with that. And then one more thing, we did have a request at the last board meeting. Debbie, I believe you had asked for some feedback on doing an incident alert for daycares. And so I did dig into that a little bit. And what I found out is because our Infinite Campus is set up with student numbers, we can't just plug in a random entity like a daycare into the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reach out to each individual, see if I can get an email, and then I send a backpack letter home when we have to do distance learning. So what I'll do is I'll just do a mass email to those daycares and make sure that they get a copy of that letter so they can have the relevant information. So we'll take care of it that way. Not as technologically savvy as saying, hey, here's an instant alert, but we can let them know what it is.
Thank you, they'll appreciate that.
Absolutely. You have any questions or anything for me?
Have you heard any more about students having trouble uploading, and it's because probably more so the service that they have in their home? When I've had a couple parents just reach out to me that they haven't been able to get stuff uploaded, so.
No. Yeah, so that would be like a picture, or maybe if they have the option of scanning something with the printer that they can then upload to teacher. I've heard nothing about uploading, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did you have the numbers for the kids that are distance learning in the elementary?
Yes.
And we can come back to that if.
Yep.
We'll move on.
Okay.
Melissa Sparks.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm sure you've seen this picture if you're on our Facebook page, but I just put up that fruits and vegetables picture. So nice to have that opportunity to have all that fresh from our garden fruits and vegetables in lunch. And the peppers have been especially popular with high school kids, which surprises me, but that's a hot item that they enjoy eating, and so I'm glad that we have that. Sherry asked me to update you a little bit on the World's Best Workforce. So that's an annual report that I usually present to you in December. And right now, we don't have any guidance on it because of COVID. So that report weighs heavily on state test results. And as you know, last spring, we didn't give the MCAs. So our district is supposed to be soon receiving some guidance on how to put that report together. So you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming month or so. We've been blessed with wonderful weather so far, and so, you know, I'd say 95% of the time our band and choir have been outside. If we have a cold weather day, the high school band is too large to socially distance in the band room, and so we worked out a deal with the Bethany Church, and they very graciously agreed to work with us on this. So on the days that it's too cold, third hour Phi-Ed is going to go up to Bethany and use their gym, and then we'll put our band students in our gym, and then we can social distance everybody. And so very grateful to Bethany for working with us on that one. Substitute teachers and paras, it's been difficult to find people to sub, whether they're a pair or a substitute, given just, I think people are uncertain, about subbing at this time. But I'd like to thank our staff. They pitch in numerous times now because there's many days we have to just in-house it, and they're being very good in taking turns giving up their preps without complaint in order to help us all out. Jim already mentioned, about our fine arts. So just like our student athletes, our fine arts students are itching to perform. So they've got some concert ideas in mind, and so they're going to do something socially distanced with being masked up, and they're hoping to put it up on our YouTube channel. So with us being all in, it has been a little bit crowded here, and we're doing what we can to socially distance. So one of the things we did is we switched our breakfast to look more like the elementary. So instead of having students standing in line to get their breakfast, we're sending just 2 kids down to the cafeteria to get their breakfast and bring it back to the classroom for the rest of the class. And that is working much, much better. We have a spreadsheet that the teachers sign up. It's kind of like going back in time when you were in school, when your teachers asked you to raise your hand for the lunch count. So it's kind of like we take the breakfast count for the next day, and then the cooks know how many bags to prepare, and then we send students down to pick them up. And so that is working much better. As far as distance learning numbers here in my building, I can tell you that we have currently 2 7th graders, 9 8th graders, 8 9th graders, 6 10th graders, 4 11th graders, and 1 12th grader. And some that get added to the list temporarily, of course, is if they're quarantined, then they're temporarily are added to the list. We've had a lot of truancy meetings right now, and a lot of our truancy has to do with our distance learners that are struggling to check in. So I think that we'll be getting some of those students back in the building, because as we're approaching truancy meetings and stuff, they're discovering that maybe distance learning isn't what they thought it should be. So I think we'll be gaining some students back in that regard. Our distance learning is a little bit different than the elementary. Our students, if they distance learn, have to log on for every class and be on until the teacher tells them that they're done for the class session or whatever. And so it's different from last spring. Last spring it was, we just had a shortened school day from 9 to 1, and it was much different. This year the state is saying we have to hold everybody accountable to the number of annual required hours for school. And that's why if you're a distance learner, you need to be checking in all day from 8 to 4, so it's different for our kids. But that's kind of where we're sitting with the numbers, and that's where we're at with distance learning. So, anybody have any questions?
I can give you the updated elementary numbers now. We're looking at a total of 23 between both elementaries. 12 are from east, 11 are from west. Broken down into K through 3, we've got 11 in that group, and then 4 through 6 is 12, so it's kind of funny how it balances out that way. Interestingly enough, I'll just give you the quick grade breakdown. 4th grade tends to be our aberration. We've got the highest number there, that's 8. Kind of surprising, but kindergarten's at 3, 1st is at 4, 2nd is at 1, 3rd is at 3, 4th is at 8, 5th is at 2, and 6th is at 2.
What is our number again, Sherry, of kind of the tipping point? Like average before we have to go, if we have to go back to distance learning?
Distance learning or hybrid right now?
Oh, hybrid, I'm sorry, hybrid, yeah.
So, one of the things that I'm finding out as I sit in superintendent meetings and public health meetings every single week is use your data. So our data in Candioi County and Chippewa County is at the point where we would be hybrid at the elementary and distance learning at the high school. But I also look at our cities, zip codes. Is this what you're getting at?
How do we make the decision?
So the decision that has gone all the way from McCray all to the governor's office is we have the ability to use any data we have. And using zip code data, we see that Raymond is remaining pretty cumulative numbers, pretty level. Clare City also very level. Cumulatively since March, hovering around in the 20s, lower 20s. And Maynard just bumped up to 1 cumulative case. I also look at our numbers here. Every day we talk to the school nurse. Our school nurse, I believe, has created just an outstanding relationship with parents. She gets a lot of calls, triage kind of calls, and is monitoring, and we have a spreadsheet that just the 4 of us have on who's in quarantine, who's in isolation, who's been tested, but it was a negative. And so we take all of that data and we go, okay, where should we be? Even though in the model, we should be hybrid in the elementary, and if we're only using 14-day county data. But number one for our kids, as I watch teachers distance teach, and I watch what's happening with kids who don't come to school, as Melissa talked about truancy, kids need to be here, number one for academics, and a really close, maybe equal number one for their mental health. So fortunately, we've been told by the county public health to use every piece of data we have. And I appreciate you asking the question, because there's a lot of people that think, well, the county numbers are way up, why are you still in school? And if I can jump into my report.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Can I just, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
One of the things that a group of superintendents from northern Minnesota did was they found some information that said schools are basically the safest place for kids to be. We work hard to socially distance. We work really hard in the high school to keep masks on. We are cleaning every hour, at the end of every hour. We are sanitizing throughout the day, sanitizing high-touch areas, I hear Scott and his people talking about. Bringing food to the lunchrooms, taking kids outside. We are all those layers of protection, one of the safest places for kids to be. And so we want our kids in, if at all possible. And in my report, I talk about being all in. And I believe it won't last forever. I believe pretty soon, another thing those superintendents in northern Minnesota said, and I'm gonna take their letter and offer it to the superintendents in southwest Minnesota, is if we can keep them here, if we can keep them healthy while they're here, and there's a lot of people that are saying now that sports have started, that might change things, then we can keep them in school for academics and their mental health. But at some point, it's going to change for us. We're really in the minority, wouldn't you say, Timmy? Mm-hmm. So anyway, any other questions about like where we're at, the scenarios? I just wanted to add, just to verbally underline, in our elementary, we have hired a person to work with kindergarten, first, second, third graders. I watched a distance learning lesson today and I'm wondering, oh my gosh, how do we keep up with those kids? That's probably among our top concerns, isn't it? What about those kids that aren't here? What about those kids that aren't here and are going truant? What about the kids that aren't here that don't have equitable, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's parent support, whether it's school supplies, whether it's this kid's in this house this day, this house this day, another house another day, and they don't bring their school stuff with them? We have got to get our kids back in school. That distance learning really takes a lot of supervision. In the elementary, we also have a teacher that's just working with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders at both elementary schools. And then we have, who works in that office right now is Haley Condon. Here's what I observe about Haley. She's meeting parents out there. She's meeting with Melissa. What data do you have on these kids? Meeting kids out there Friday after school to proctor a test. meeting parents out there to give them materials, calling parents all day long to monitor those. I don't know what the total number was, Melissa, that we had 30-something?
30s, yeah. She drives to their houses and drops off stuff and, yeah.
So those 3 people are being paid by COVID funds, which is the third thing here on my list. Kim really is doing a really good job for us in, okay, can this be paid out of CRF funds? Can this be paid out of ESSER gear? Between Kim and I, we're calling, we're finding out, we want to maximize, we want to spend every cent of the $199,916 that we're getting for CRF and gears and ESSER and $20,000 from Kansas County, and we don't know, still a question mark, from Chippewa. So everything that we have paid for, including those people, including ancillary paraprofessionals, right? Extra cleaning, cleaning supplies, cleaning products. Like I said here, we just got approval for $33,900 in cleaning tools that will help the custodial staff work faster and more efficiently. I have something here about policies, which they are what they are right here. And last of all, Jenna, Melissa, and I are working with Sourcewell Technology. It's a Minnesota-wide technology group that supports technology in just about any way you think about technology, to help to write for us and help us create a pre-K through 12 digital citizenship, technology safety curriculum for students, and that we can also share with parents. That's one of our big initiatives along with COVID and everything else. So we did get something in the email from Sourcewell just yesterday, and I'm going to reach back out to them tomorrow. I'm actually really pretty excited about that, because I think schools go on and we forget about what our kids are doing on their devices at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they bring that stuff to school. So yeah, okay. Questions?
So with all the COVID funding,
Yes.
that 199,000 or whatever, how much of it has to be spent by that ridiculous guideline of December 30th?
All of our 199,916 does.
No, by the end of November, we have to have 75%
Oh,
of
what
it.
did you say?
By December 30th, 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
all of it by December 30th.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said November.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With proof,
I know,
of
but
course,
isn't that
of
ridiculous?
every single thing.
Yeah, because it's not going to go away.
Right. I hope there's more to come, as long as, because I want to keep Haley for the whole year. We need her for the whole year. I need to keep Joanne and Marilyn for the whole year. This isn't going to go away December 31st, is it?
Yeah.
So if we can keep paying those people to support the parents and support distance learning, we've got to have it. And we're going to keep cleaning. So if we get another batch, then we can pay them for the rest of the year. Buy more supplies.
But don't you think even if we gotta spend general fund money, we almost have to do it?
Yeah, well, that's why we're trying to maximize.
Yeah.
We can purchase computers with the first batch that came out, right?
Yep.
And then Jesse pretty much held my hand, or mostly did that. I think I told you, Debbie, once about the Best Buy grant. We did get that. That was $12,000, which is not much, but it allowed us to get some hot spots, and you know, every bit helps.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as keeping that staff on it.
Oh, yeah, that's really a priority.
Yep.
So we'll see.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No discussion items, so we'll move on to business items. 8.1.
I'll make a motion to approve the first and final reading of the tobacco-free environment policy.
Okay, we have a motion by Julie, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Discussion?
I just want to say that we do know that these changes need to be in the student handbook. I just got these last week. You guys approved a similar one last year, and you can see what the changes are, but this requires more training, and Melissa's already lined it up with Countryside Public Health and Judd with, I think, Countryside Public Health to work on the trainings for the kids.
All right, any further discussion? Nobody's hearing none, in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 8.2.
I'll make a motion to approve 8.2, the first and final reading of policy 413, harassment and violence.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Carmel, seconded by Debbie. Discussion?
I just have a couple questions, maybe for a little bit more clarification. I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a parent who might think, how do I report this? And on page 6 and page 7, it was a little conflicting to me about in each building, there's a principal designee called the building report taker. I don't know who that person is, but then on the top of page 7, it says in the district, the school board identifies you. So I'm just wondering if there might be a little bit more clarification about the steps, so that, what, does the parent have to go to the building first and then to you, or do they go to you and then they go to the building? Who is that building report taker? I think just if we can make it as clear as possible for folks.
Seems like a flow chart to me.
Yeah.
I'm into flow charts. So this also really parallels, I'm sure, parallels very, very closely Title IX and all the things that Title IX entails. So I think we can weave these together is my hope, because there's a lot more I have to do with Title IX yet. But we also have to post who these people are in the district, so if you want to wait a month and finish the approval, or if you, because we know we have to post this, and once we post it, you know, on the website, then it'll be there.
Right, and I'm okay if you post it after making edits, but I just put myself, if I'm a parent, I look at the website, I don't know who this person is, who do I call, what do I do? Then it talked about supervisors or designees, and if you could just define that a little bit.
Perfect. I'll add handbooks too, because the students need to know that as well. Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, you want to change anything to the motion, right? It's good
No,
the way it is.
we're good.
All right. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 8.3.
Make a motion to approve the first and final reading of policy 601, school district curriculum and instructional goals.
We have a motion by Scott, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tate, discussion?
If I may, the critical thing here is the legislators are very, and the legislature collectively is very interested in dyslexia. So the point on 601-6 is that we, every year, communicate with the Department of Education.
That's part of my Read Well by Third Grade plan.
Perfect. Good. So, yeah. Even as recently as last year, we called the Department of Education to find out what is the dyslexia tool we use. What do you think the answer was? No, I don't know.
You have to be,
Is there a tool?
you have to be specially trained in order to use it. Okay.
Love you.
So,
All right, any other discussion? Nobody's hearing none, in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 8.4.
I'll make a motion to approve the first and final reading of policy 607, organization of grade levels.
Okay, we have a motion by Julie, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carmel, discussion? All right, hearing none, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next school board meeting is November 9th
Should be, I think.
at 6 PM. And otherwise, I guess I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Didn't Chris say something about having to meet on the 10th to approve the process for bids? Or
That- December
would
10th.
As-
He said, I
I
have,
don't know if the board had to be involved with.
But that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
yeah, he's never talked to me about it either, so I wonder if it's those guys that will be doing the tours, because, I mean, really, they know the specifics of concrete and.
No,
Why-
not the tours, but they were saying that on the
Yeah, the 10th.
November 10th,
Our November board meeting, so they maybe have the date.
right,
We'll
was
be
what I'm getting at. Because
Oh.
like, I think November 10th, we were sending the bids out and then they're being opened in December
Yeah.
10th. So there was a month there, but it sounded like we had to approve that, but I don't know if that's correct. So are we having a separate meeting or does it happen at the school board?
He's told me they're coming to the school board. meeting.
Okay.
On the
okay,
9th, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're coming on November 9th.
Yes.
Yeah, so he should have said 9th instead of 10th.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had the 10th of December written down, but not the,
Yeah,
okay?
And the 9th is a regular meeting.
Yeah.
great.
We'll make sure I double check with him.
Okay.
We'll put all these, yeah, did you just say we'll put all these on the next cadre of meetings? Yeah.
Okay, all right, then I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Carmel, second
I'll second.
by Julie. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.